All right, Sonata Form. The first movement of every classical era symphony is in sonata form, and sometimes even the fourth movement. This is a new musical form. It's really kind of an outgrowth of a prior one that composers are going to use so that you know A, I'm in the first movement of a classical era symphony. B, I have a plot, I have an outline. I don't know how long each section lasts. I don't know how long the first movement is. I don't know when it's going to end. But by knowing the form and understanding what form is, I'll know where I am in the structure and where it may end and where it may repeat. Okay, so sonata form, we're going to listen to the first movement of Mozart's Symphony 40 and Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, Movement 1. Or you're going to listen to them. I've already listened to them, miraculously, many, many times. You'll click on those links after this video and you'll see what this sonata form is. So the first movement of every classical era symphony is sonata form. Okay, essentially, it's a musical form is delineated, by the most part, in this time period, by the musical sections and their repeats. So when something repeats, it's kind of like putting a period and an exclamation point that something's over, and then we're going to repeat the idea so people can remember that hummable melody. They can go out of the concert hall singing and come by and buy more tickets. Okay, so it's kind of like the pop hook, right? The repeats are going to let the audience know that part of the piece is done, and now I know where I am in the form, and I know what I'm listening to, and now I'll be able to hear it repeated, listening to it again, and get a better idea of what I should hum on the way out. So keep that in mind. Repeats are very, very important. Can't repeat too much, it gets boring. Don't repeat enough, it's harder to follow, like the Baroque music for the average listener. So obviously great composers are going to mess with this standard idea, but this is the textbook idea. Okay, so we can think of sonata form as two large sections of music. Both sections, for the most part, okay, are going to be totally repeated. So by having the two repeats, it's two sections of music. So that first section we're going to call big A, and it's going to be a pretty large piece of music, but then it's going to have a repeat sign. It's going to repeat the whole idea so the audience knows what's going on. And then they know they're done with the first large chunk of music. They don't know how long it's going to be, but once they hear it repeated, they know where they are. Okay. So we're going to hear a bunch of things in that large A section. We're going to hear a theme or a collection of melodies or a theme group. Okay, and then it's going to get unstable musically, and we're going to have this bridge that moves us from the original tonic key of the piece to a new musical key and a second set of themes or melodies in a new key. And then we're going to get to getting to the end of the piece where the repeat is, and we get what's called the closing theme or the cadence theme for that final cadence. So we have our first theme or theme group, multiple themes. They're all sharing the same key. Then the music's going to get kind of crazy and less stable, or in longer pieces, and it's going to move from the first key to the new key. The new key music's going to have our second theme or theme group, and we're going to have a closing theme to round it off. Boom, period, repeat sign. This is called the exposition. That big A is called the exposition because the composer is exposing to the audience the actors, the music, the characters, right? So if you think of the themes as actors, we're going to expose to the audience who the main players are in the music. Then we're going to repeat to make sure you caught the idea, that you can hum the idea, you know the melody, you've heard it repeated, so that later on in the music you can recognize when the composer is using the melody or messing with the melody, or when the characters or actors, right, are involved in the plot. So boom, A section happens with the exposition, it repeats. Boom, second section, big B section. It has two parts in it, but one big repeat. So we're going to call it one section, big old B. So it starts off with the development. So the development's going to take all these ideas, the themes, or some of the themes from the opening exposition. So we're going to take our actors, we're going to put them into some plot activity. So we're going to have a lot of transitions, we're going to have a lot of musical key changes often, we'll have different rhythms, we'll have parts of melodies, we'll have melodies bits, we'll have the melodies run into other melodies, but you're going to be able to recognize the manipulation of some of the original themes from the exposition. The actors are going to go into plot action, and it's all of a sudden going to be an action-packed movie with these ideas. That's the development. The composer is showing how he can take these characters and develop them into different ideas. Then, in order to round everything off, they'll be very symmetrical, which classical composers are very much into symmetry. They're going to repeat the opening. So on the inside, right? So we're going to have the development and the opening again repeated as a whole. That opening, when it returns, is called the recapitulation, capo. the head. So we're going to go back to the beginning, or back to the head, as jazz players would say. And there is a slight problem. We can't end the piece in a key that it didn't start in. They just didn't do that. So in order to get back home, when you get to the second theme being repeated again from the opening, it has to be transposed to the original key, or the original key and mode, depending on if it was minor, and now it's got to be major to end the piece in major, right? So we have the exposition, theme, bridge, second theme, closing theme, repeat signs. Boom, new section, develop the ideas, return to the beginning, right? We're going to have to transpose the second theme so we can end in the right key, and repeat that whole thing again, okay? And that is textbook sonata form.